What is up? This is Josh Trent. This is Wellness and Wisdom. This podcast episode today is a recap of all the beautiful wisdom I've learned this year, 2023. What an amazing year it has been. How amazing, how challenging has 2023 actually been? It's been one of those years for the freaking record books. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, tap that little subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're first in line to get all of our free life-changing videos and podcasts in 2024. If you're watching on Spotify, do the same. Tap that little button on Spotify and get it on your device, in your car, wherever you are. It's going to get noisier out in the world. This can be your signal. This podcast, this subscription for free, it'll always be free, is from my heart to your heart so we can expand our minds, not the other way around. This is not a podcast where you just want to gather information. Yes, that's part of the wellness that we all are worth in this lifetime, the arc of wellness, the gathering, the application, and then most importantly, the embodiment. Isn't that what we all want? We all want embodiment. We want to be embodied with all the podcasts that we watch and listen to. We actually want it to be in our body, living in our body. But how do we do this? It's going to get noisier. It's going to get a lot noisier. You're going to need a signal that can bring you above the noise. That is Wellness and Wisdom. This is the place where, as always, we focus on the 5 sides of the wellness pentagon on the screen right now: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial ways that we can nourish ourselves. So in this episode, I'm going to lay out the most beautiful and practical ways, the top 7 lessons that I have received, well, actually all of us have received on this Wellness and Wisdom podcast from some of the most brilliant minds and powerful hearts on planet Earth. Now, if you're the kind of person that loves lists and you love to get the ultimate distilled wisdom, this is going to be perfect for you. Make sure that you go over to the show notes page today, joshtrent.com/598. This is a place where, as always, you can go to get all of the resources, links, discount codes, and everything else. Now, before we get into this episode, I do want to shout out the store page. This store page is something that I have created from my heart. I actually eat and consume and put on my skin and put on my body and have in here in the studio and in my house all the products that I use personally. I have vetted them. It's at joshtrent.com/store. Every single time you make a purchase from the store, it helps support the show. And by the way, you get the hookup. You get up to 40%, sometimes 50% or more off of all the products that you're using anyways, but you can just get them at a deeper discount. So it's a triple win. Everybody wins. Let's dig in to the top 7 lessons of 2023 so we can actually embody them in 2024. The first lesson that I have learned is force doesn't work. Force doesn't work. Anything that's taken by force is always going to be taken back by force in the future. What do I mean by this? If you take something by force, for example, the wars that are going on the planet right now, whenever you grab something from someone else, it creates resentment. It creates what Aristotle calls a vacuum, and nature hates a vacuum. So whether it's my personal life, whether it's my relationship, my children, my business, anything that I take by force, it is going to be taken back from me energetically in the future by force again, because nature hates a vacuum. So how do we get what we want in 2024? How do we actually receive what it is we desire? How do we tap into the abundance that is so everywhere? You know, Bob Proctor said, you take from abundance, abundance is still there. It's not like you take a drop of water from the ocean and the ocean gets angry at you. There's plenty of water to go around. There's plenty of abundance to go around as well. So power from peace is the key. This is lesson number 1 that I have learned so much. It's why we shifted the podcast in 2022 from wellness force to wellness and wisdom. That's where we are. A place of wisdom can only come from peace combined with life experience. Life experience is what, and it's no knock on young 20-year-olds that are life coaches. I know they're doing their best. But when you do not have enough life experience, you tend to take things by force, because you might listen to some of the influencers out there in the world and you might think that that's actually you. Well, what we don't realize, and what many of us in our young 20s don't realize, is that anytime you take something from force because you saw someone else take from force and you just assumed that you could do the same thing and it'll work out for you, it's actually the wrong path. The wrong path is to take something from force. The right path is to take something from peace. And look, these paths of right and wrong, it's actually not even right and wrong. It's more about what is most loving and what is most hateful. What is most compressive to the nervous system? What is most opening to the nervous system? What is most opening to the nervous system is that you take something from an energy of peace. So if you go and claim and do the work to claim what's rightfully yours, you are actually in a place of peace, in a place of desire to achieve that, to gather that. And then you can actually embody it. There's this bridge that Hawkins talks about in his book, Power versus Force. It's linked at joshtrent.com/598. What he talks about is whenever you are creating that energetic vacuum and you are going after something from a place of anger, resentment, one of the lowest frequencies, right? Shame, apathy, whatever it is, despair, there's a vacuum that's created. We talked about this in episode 509 with Connor Beaton, how to find the perfect partner by understanding and integrating your shadow. It's linked right here below and it's on the screen right now. Connor says, your shadow has its own intelligence. The shadow is the psychological energy that's working against you to shut off the pathways towards your goals, aims, and the changes and the love that you want. We need to invite the intelligence to work with us to build a relationship with it so it's not working against us. When we start to do that, we start to expand consciously and create sovereignty internally. I freaking love Connor's work. He walks the talk. I've been a guest on his Man Talks podcast, and he's also been a guest, I believe a 2 or 3 time guest on Wellness and Wisdom. Now, here's why I love Connor. Connor is a father. He's an entrepreneur. He had a past of addiction, of really terrible behavior, and he found a way inside of himself to really live this embodiment of what I'm sharing with you today, and that is power instead of force. True power can only come from peace. Unless I have peace in my heart when I go after the power that I want, or when I develop the characteristics and the capability inside of myself to be that power, it has to come from peace. Holy shit, I've experienced this in my life so much. And let me know if you have in the comments on Instagram, in the comments on our podcast, on the website, wherever you are, have you ever experienced that you got something, but you took it by force, and then when all the energy floated down, you realized it wasn't that rewarding. You get to the top of the mountain and all you see is another mountain. Let's go into lesson number 2. Number 2 is actually the same as number 1, but it's done in a different way. Your shadow has its own intelligence for peace. This is episode 509 with Connor Beaton. Our shadow, the thing inside of us that is wanting order. Chaos is always seeking order. But what people don't realize is that the more they go out there, and I've been, definitely guilty of this myself, the more that we go out there and we try to ignore our pain, ignore our shadow, or maybe we just don't even know we have unconscious incompetence about our shadow, the more that our shadow is going to direct us towards the healing that we're looking for. Now, we don't know we're looking for it. It's unconsciously being sought after. So your shadow has its own intelligence for peace. How does this play out? Here's a personal story. So my shadow has been projection, just like many of us, actually probably all of us. If you're a human being, you have a shadow and you project, unless you've experienced personal nirvana, which I don't know too many people that have. Maybe you have. If you have, let us know in the comments. Your shadow has its own intelligence. Your shadow is something that you don't even know you don't know. It's unconscious incompetence. This shadow portion of us is actually a beautiful thing. It's directing us on the path towards peace, towards acceptance, towards compassion, towards actually loving Josh or loving you. But this shadow, if it's ignored, it's kind of like a pressurized capsule. It just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing until one day you just can't simply hold the beach ball underwater anymore. The beach ball has to come up for a breath of air. It has to literally overcome the force of the gravitational pull inside of water. We do not have to suffer like that. I want to speak from my heart to everyone. You do not have to suffer so much. Yes, life is suffering. And it doesn't just take the Buddha to embody that virtue, to embody that knowledge. We know that life is suffering because we all suffer. But how do we turn down the volume and how do we lessen the degree of suffering in our life? It's by actually physically and emotionally and energetically turning to our shadow and loving our shadow, loving our fear, loving our shadow. This is what is talked about in episode 509 with Connor. I implore you to go over to joshtrent.com/509. All right, number 3 is we are giving the body the building blocks of organic food. This is probably the most overlooked thing when it comes to physical health. There's so many fitness influencers out there. There's so many people out there that are giving really great information, right? But the one thing that I wasn't taught from NASM when I was a personal trainer is the importance of organic food. It's actually hands down, one of the most important things that you could ever learn. And I want you to really feel this. We talked about this in episode 541 with my brothers and wizards, the founder of literally the only supplement that I take every day without question. It's called Mana. This is David Reed and Brad McDonald. The title of this podcast at 541, joshtrent.com/541, is Genetic Liberation, how to increase your vitality with the secrets of Mana unlocked. This is the key. This is the takeaway. There's 118 elements on the periodic table. Within the sachet of Mana, we have all the most vital parts of these 118 elements. If you think of these elements as keys on a piano, we can play the best song as our biological expression only if we have access to all the important keys. We only have access to 20 keys, though, as an example, then there's going to be huge areas of our expression that are compromised. Studies show that those elements are no longer in our food because they're no longer in our soil. We're giving the body the building blocks of organic food because if you're deficient, you don't have access to them. Part of your expression is going to be deficient. Now, here's actually the beauty of Shilajit and Ormus. Shilajit is the two parts, one of the two parts inside of Mana. And this goes to my big lesson here, which is get organic food into your system. Here's why. It's got more light. We actually need more light in our body. We are light beings. Whether you're scientific, whether you're spiritual, you know this, you feel this. We're light beings. But everybody likes to push this aside and say, oh, just eat the best foods you can. And that's true to some degree. But if I had to prioritize one thing in my life, it would be my breath, my water, and my food, and also my sleep. Hands down, those are the most important things. So if you are giving your body the building blocks of organic food, if you are literally giving yourself the salts that are found in the Ormus, in the Shilajit, you are going to be light years ahead and you're going to be able to produce a lot more light from your body. Shilajit is concentrated plant matter. It's constructed by Mother Nature at 10,000 feet or above, specifically in many places, but specifically the Himalayas. And Shilajit is this concentrated form of light, of plant matter. This is a way for you to bypass, even if you do eat organic, all the ways that you are deficient, all the ways that we are deficient, even when we try our very best. Sometimes in life, we need to supplement, especially in this modern age. So do this. Give your body the building blocks of organic food. You can learn more about this entire spectrum of light that's created by the body and how the Shilajit and the Ormus, by the way, the Ormus is from the Dead Sea, the lowest place on earth. This has vitality and light inside of it as well. You can learn more at joshtrent.com/541. You can also get 20% off the Mana. I would recommend you do that. It's freaking amazing. joshtrent.com/Mana and use the code JOSH20 to get 20% off. All right, number 4, money and purpose. Your heart knows the way. That's going to seem counterintuitive because isn't money a man-made construct? Well, yes, it is. But in order to defeat the matrix, in order to play the Monopoly game, because by the way, I've learned in these past almost 10 years of podcasting, money is truly a game. Money and purpose are brother and sister. Your heart knows the way. And sometimes when your heart is directing you, let's be honest, in this world, it's not set up to always support what our heart knows. It's not. And so the courage inside of your heart has to forge your own purpose. And this is what we talk about in episode 555 with my brother, Mike Dillard. He talks about the war on money and mind. This is his community at Richer Every Day. You know, the 5th part of the Pentagon is financial. And Mike shares about the true meaning of money, how you can rewire your mind and be a magnet for it. Now, this is not just a typical spiritual mumbo and jumbo episode. This is a very practical episode, but it does deal with the energetic forces that either brings money to us or repels it away. And one of the things I love most about Mike is that his teachings have actually played out in my own life. There's a concept called rewiring, where you start to actually use the neuroplasticity in the brain to get what you want. You can actually use your brain as the servant instead of your brain being the master. And that's what it was designed for. Money is a source of wound for so many of us. And I don't say that lightly. When I was young, I was raised on welfare. I had a huge money wound. I had to stand in that special line at school for the kids that had welfare lunches. And I always felt a little bit of shame in my heart at that time. Now, I can look back and give that young version of Josh love and compassion, but at the time, it created the seeds in my unconscious that money equals pain. And I've spent the majority of that time, especially in the past 10 years, this podcast has been a huge therapy device for me around money, to actually know that money is a game and money is an energetic representation of the value and the love and the service that I put out there in the world. Now, I'll also say in full truth that because money is a game, sometimes you just learn how to play the game better. For example, if you were playing Monopoly with a friend and that friend got Boardwalk, Park Place, all the most expensive real estate, you wouldn't get angry and get mad at that friend. You would actually just watch that friend and see how it is that they got those properties, right? Well, what if I told you that the exact same way you play Monopoly or you play a board game is exactly the fruits of your labor in life? Now, people aren't going to like this because there's an incredible amount of suffering around money in the world. But what I'm here to tell you is that money is a Monopoly board. How are you playing Monopoly? When your friend wins, do you get angry at your friend? Or do you watch how your friend won and do you put yourself and stack the odds in your favor so that you can set up your own board game of life to win? So many people out there that are idolized, especially in the spiritual community. I'm going to put some people in the spiritual community on blast. So many people that were in one industry, made a bunch of money, made millions of dollars, they all of a sudden become spiritually enlightened. Have you seen this? And they come over to the spiritual world. Maybe they were in real estate. Maybe they were in some like title or crypto or whatever it is. They make a bunch of money. They stuff their coffers with millions of bucks. And then all of a sudden they're spiritual. Have you seen this? Well, these false prophets aren't doing anything outside of the game of Monopoly. They're just playing the game really well. And this is something to look out for. And Mike talks about this because he says, if you don't have a plan for your money, it'll fall under the hands of someone who does have plans for it. They not only have plans for your money, but also some of the smartest people on the planet whose full-time job it is to figure out how to extract your money from your hands and put it into theirs. There's a war with an unprecedented level of sophistication that is being waged against you as a consumer every single day to extract your money from your bank account and to put it in someone else's. Buying things that you don't need, being manipulated by blame and guilt and shame to get the new workout clothes, get the new workout shoes, get the new fill in the blank. But I'm going to tell you, my friend, straight up, I've learned this. When you buy something new, it does not make you new. It might be this temporary thing where you feel new, but you're actually not new. You've just taken something from the outside and tried to attach it to fill the hole on the inside. You can learn more about this, and I really implore you to go there. joshtrent.com/555. All right, let's move on. Number 5, practice your pentagon. Practice your pentagon. At the bottom of the pentagon is the physical. We've already talked about feeding your body light from mana, having organic food in your system. We've talked about water and breath and all these beautiful things that maybe some part of you knows, but are you doing it? Now, here's the walls of the house we live in. We have emotional and we have mental. On the top of that, we have financial, which we talked about with Mike Dillard. And then we also have spiritual, which we'll get to. The big key on this one is to practice your pentagon. Practice your pentagon every day, because if you don't practice these physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial ways that you can nourish yourself, someone else will try to practice it for you. Now, look, I'm not here to scare you, but we are in a war of the soul, war of the mind, war of the body. When you choose to practice your pentagon, just like being here on this podcast, watching this, wherever you're watching this, you are in practice of it right now. You're in the gathering phase. You're getting all the things that you need to practice your pentagon. So please, please, I implore you, make wellness a habit, make wellness a hobby, make wellness something that you love. Because the more you practice this habit, this hobby, and this practice of self-love, the more you are going to love yourself. This is at the core of all of this. At the core of all the practice, at the core of all the wellness, at the core of every piece of wisdom that we're all seeking is self-love. But self-love is not a light switch. Self-love is not something that you can walk over and just flick on the wall, and all of a sudden you love yourself. It doesn't work like that. And I wished it did, but in a way, I also don't wish that, because there's a reason the Creator created the journey of self-love and self-discovery and really knowing thyself to be a continuum. Otherwise, if we knew exactly why we were here and we knew exactly how to love ourselves perfectly and we knew all the lessons, there'd probably be no game. There'd probably be no life itself. So the pentagon is a duality, because in the practice of the pentagon, we learn things about ourselves that essentially we have just forgotten. And so number 5 is practice your pentagon. Practice knowing yourself, practice loving yourself, and practice the gathering of how we can actually succeed at the game, the clues for the game. Don't get mad at your friend when they win at their game. Watch them, study them, understand how did they win, because success leaves clues. When you win, it leaves clues. And of course, there's going to be people out there that have an unfair advantage, right? They were born to a trust fund. They all of a sudden win, they get lucky, right place, right time. But if you combine the law of attraction with your heart's purest intention for success, and you dedicate yourself from a place of purity to your Pentagon practice, I guarantee you, my life is living proof. 2 children, loving relationship, multiple 6-figure business, millions and millions of downloads on a podcast. It works. It works. I'm not saying that because I want you to be like, oh, look at Josh, he's so cool. I'm going to tell you, I fucking earned every inch of my Pentagon, and I still do. I earned every inch of my relationship with my love, with my children, with my business, with my money. It has been earned. I have walked the path right next to you. I have walked the path with you. So practice your Pentagon, y'all. Number 6, SAD. This is big because if you're watching this in the winter, seasonal affective disorder is real. We talked about this with my brother, my friend, Brian Richards. He's the CEO and founder of a company called Sauna Space. And in this episode, it's about red light therapy for seasonal affective disorder, otherwise known as SAD. You can learn more about this, joshtrent.com/525. Now, this is big. In my studio here in North Austin, in the guest room, I have a sauna space. I go in there on the regular. You can buy the full unit. You can also buy the small lights that you can put in like a bathroom or your own sauna. So wherever you are on the financial scale, they have solutions for you. But this is the key. This is actually sun therapy. Sun therapy is all about near infrared. And Brian shares with us, do you want to be happy in the winter? What you're missing is not so much ultraviolet light as it is 70% of the sun that is near infrared. Ultraviolet light is a double-edged sword. It's doing a lot of good for the body, like helping vitamin D production, but it also ionizes radiation, which rips apart your DNA. So many people have claimed to have brought balance and resolved their SAD, their seasonal affective disorder, with the sauna space, the near-infrared photon light therapy. Beyond it being a fire light and a targeted therapy, near-infrared is a happy light. So look, if you want to be happy in the winter, yes, get outside. But if you can't get outside, do something to nourish yourself on a cellular level. There's many different aspects why this photon light, why this campfire light is huge. Let me share personally what this has done for me. In my life, every single time I get up in the morning, I can either wait for my traditional sauna to warm up, which sometimes takes 90 minutes, or I can come to the studio and flick on the photon light and the sauna space, and I'm good in about 5 minutes. I'm dripping sweat. I'm working my cardio. I'm getting that photon light therapy that penetrates deep, almost to the bone in some cases, depending on where you put the light. This light gets so deep into your system, it actually spins the mitochondria faster, which gives you more energy, which detoxifies yourself. If you've been looking for a sauna, and if you want to literally surmount the obstacle that so many million people face every single winter, seasonal affective disorder, head over to joshtrent.com/sauna space. Now you're probably like, hold on, do I need all these tools Josh is telling me? No, you don't. You can do all of these things for free, by the way. If you ate perfectly, 100% organic from a farm, maybe you live on a farm. If you were out in nature, regardless of the temperature outside and you got sunlight, you don't need any of these things at all. But if you're not living a perfect lifestyle, which is, I don't know anybody who's living a perfect lifestyle, do you? Get the sauna space, joshtrent.com/sauna space, and use the code JOSH10. All right, let's get to the final number 7, and this is a big one. It's called nootropics. This is a bridge in your brain for energy that coffee cannot touch. Here is why. Most of us are addicted to coffee at some point in our life. Now, if you're the kind of person where coffee works for you, awesome. Don't change a thing. If coffee works for you and you're not burnt out and you feel good on coffee, you can just fast forward this and get to the juicy part at the end of this podcast. But if you're like me and you're sensitive to coffee, you actually need something else. Here's how you can get it. You go to joshtrent.com/Nootopia, Nootopia, use the code JOSH10, and you can start getting some brain building elements that actually allow your cognition to flourish without just the CNS stimulation of coffee. Look, the majority of people, if you look at the research, especially when it comes to adrenal fatigue, they have had a massive, probably 50% or more of people have had a massive up and down with coffee. Coffee does not work for the long term, at least for some of us that have had adrenal fatigue. In this episode, joshtrent.com/593 with Mark Effinger. He's a biochemist. He's the founder of Nootopia, one of my absolute favorite products in the world. And this podcast is called Nootropics Masterclass, How to Be Healthy, Fit, and Wealthy with New Brain Body Science at Any Age. This is a big lesson right here. This is a bomb drop. The way that nootropics work is that they affect the neurochemicals that are available in your gut. Now, why is that? You're thinking, wait a minute, I thought this is for my brain. Well, there's a piece called the gut-brain axis. Serotonin, adrenaline, norepinephrine, and dopamine. They activate certain neurochemical processes in the brain, and they also provide the raw products so that your brain can create the neurochemicals necessary for optimal health. They also support neurogenesis, which is the blooming and creation of new neurons. My relationship with my brain, my relationship with my body in 2023 has hands down transformed at any other time because frankly, y'all, I'm 43, I'm getting older. And so I definitely am getting wiser as I'm getting older, but I'm also increasing my self-care as I get older. I can't treat myself like I did when I was in my 20s or even my early 30s. I need an edge. I need an edge to perform. I need an edge to live my life well, to be there for my son, my partner, my business, my friendship. I need a little edge. And so I get that edge from nootropics because I want healthy serotonin. I want healthy adrenaline, norepinephrine response. I want a healthy dopamine response. These neurochemical processes in the brain, these things that the raw products sometimes are missing from our food, from our life because of stress, you can actually do a better life. You can have a better life. You can be better in your life by feeding your brain exactly what it needs, giving your brain these raw products that it needs from the Nootopia. My absolute favorite one, I have the spray right here. It's called Zamner juice. It's on the screen if you're watching on Spotify or on YouTube. I love the Zamner juice. It increases verbal fluency. So if you're at work and if you're performing, maybe you're giving a lecture or a talk or you're doing a video like I'm doing right now, it's really, really good for your articulation, the ability to take thoughts and put them into verbal things. That's actually what separates us many times in the world from everyone else, right? We feel something in our heart. We want to have physical presence and mental presence in order to articulate that truth into the world. But what blocks us is our neurochemistry. We're tired. We're underslept, especially if you're a parent. I can relate. Your Oura Ring scores are like 50 or below. The stress is piling up. The last thing you need in that moment is more coffee. Trust me. The last thing that you need when you're hella stressed, when you're going through the gauntlet is more coffee. Go over to joshtrent.com/Nootopia, Nootopia. Use the code JOSH10, get 10% off the entire chasm, the beautiful, beautiful products they have at Nootopia. My top three are AM and PM, Mental Reboot, AM and PM, also the Zamner juice, and then the Upbeat. There's many others that you can check out on that page, but coming in at number 7 is the most important thing. It's how do we take what's in our heart and make it words and action and a prayer in real life. The only way we can do that is by having the courage and by having the physiology to actually do it. And so I know I've shared a lot today. It's been a beautiful podcast from my heart to yours, from my mind to yours, because I've connected my heart and my mind today through all of the things that I've shared with you. The mana, the nootropics, the presence of myself, the practice of self-love, the understanding of money, all the different ways, these top 7 things. Power from peace versus force. Your shadow has its own intelligence for peace. Give the body the building blocks of organic food. Have your money and your purpose be guided by your heart. Practice your pentagon. Use this red light therapy, this photobiomodulation, to increase your energy, to increase your mood and get rid of SAD. And then lastly, build that bridge in your brain for energy that coffee just simply cannot touch. A couple bonus episodes that I really want you to check out as you go into 2024 is episode 595. It was recorded with Carrie Michelle, the mother of my children, the love of my life, and Margot Running, a true elder, where straight up, it was the most vulnerable, the most exposing. If you listen to the episode, you already know. I really want you to go listen to the episode. If you've been wanting a relationship, go to that episode. I had so many people write in that they cried, that they had shifts, that they started seeing themselves differently, which allowed them to see their partner differently or the way they look at dating differently. It's a big one. It's a really big one. So joshtrent.com/595. And then also lastly, the episode with Dr. John Lawrence. John is a brother. He's a friend. He's the founder of Mitozen. That's joshtrent.com/591. He talks about traveling the world and meeting with Dana White and helping Dana White with his cranial pressure and doing the balloon treatments. It's just an epic episode. And John talks about this last piece. This is a little bonus here. John says everything stops working properly when you have too much inflammation in your body. You have areas where microbes can live and exist and secrete their excrement, their toxic waste, This is called an endotoxin. These endotoxins are literally at the root of all diseases. The three primary doorways are the nasal passage, the oral, the mouth, and the colon. Now, this is really big because your dental hygiene, your cleanliness with your body, your coffee enemas that you do, your methylene blue, your nasal spray, which is why, hands down, I absolutely love the nasal spray. I understand that you're probably like, Josh, you're giving me another product, but seriously, these are all things that I personally use and I purchase myself. So why not share them with you? joshtrent.com/mitozen. You have to be a member of the Mitozen Club to get this, but if you use the code WellnessForce, you get 10% off, which is incredible. And this is what I love most about the nasal spray. Carrie and I actually do this almost every single night. It brings me down to earth. If I've had a day where I'm talking a bunch or where I'm doing business or where I'm just like going and going and going, when I stack breath work with the Mitozen, it brings me back down to planet Earth. It's got oxytocin and HAPE. Now, this is not a medical prescription and nothing that I talk about is a medical prescription. But what it does is it goes into the sinuses. It cleans out my sinuses. I'm blowing my nose. I'm grounding through the HAPE. I'm getting that oxytocin release. And then I'm increasing my pair bonding with Carrie. I'm releasing vasopressin. She's releasing oxytocin. Well, we both are, but if you look at the episode we did with Molly Maloof, it's linked down below in the show notes. She talks about the core difference between men and women, men releasing vasopressin, women releasing mostly oxytocin compared to men. This is a bonus because I wanted to include this as you go to 2024. Why are you even here in the first place? You're here to get these top 7 lessons and maybe a few more that I've talked about because you want to live your life well. You deserve to live your life well. Wellness is a birthright. It's not something that only the rich and the famous and the affluent can have and be. Most of these things that I've talked about, if not all of them, you can actually get for free if you just mirror our ancestors' lifestyle or if you just mirror the way that nature is providing space for us to do so. But we live in a world where that's not always possible. And my intention from the beginning in 2015 with what was then Wellness Force, what is now Wellness and Wisdom, hence I'm eating my own dog food. I'm getting power from peace instead of force. That's why I let go of the old podcast. I didn't want to force it anymore. And that is the ultimate wisdom that I want to leave you with in this podcast, in this video, is that when it comes to 2024, we don't know what's on the horizon. We have no idea. It could be war. It could be more mask bullshit. It could be more mental propaganda, which through the advent of AI probably will increase. So it is my and your loving responsibility to clear away the shit that does not matter, to clear away the garbage and the noise and find a trusted signal. That's what this podcast is. That's what comes from my heart to you. This is a trusted signal for your wellness, for your wisdom, so you can have liberation in 2024. A buddy of mine, Mark Groves, wrote a book called Liberated Love. And through my journey in, yes, microdosing, macrodosing, my allies with plant medicine, wise counsel from people like JP Sears and Brad Tonkin and Mark and many people and Margot, I learned something about myself. And that is when I care for my physiology, when I care for my psychology, when I care for my heart and I let my soul guide me, there's nothing to force. I actually don't have to force shit because it just comes from me. This episode came from me. A lot of the spiritual people might say, it was a divine download. I got the codes, brother. It came through. However you want to describe it. Yeah, that might be true. This is coming through me. This is a download, a cosmic download, I guess, which I actually don't like that phrase at all. I just don't. It's coming through because it's the truth. It's the byproduct of the ways I care for my physical body, my mind, and my heart and soul. And that is what I want to invite you to do this year with us in the Liberated Life community. This Liberated Life community that launches in March of 2024. This is going to be a place where you can get all the wisdom, all the wellness, all the things that'll allow you to truly live life well. What do we all want in this lifetime? We want freedom. How do we get freedom? We have to release all the shackles, all the stories, and all the unconscious bullshit that has created this separation filter between our conscious and our unconscious. We get to let that go. Now, the only way we can let that go is by doing the work to let go of it, to see the ways that we have been holding on to our own suffering. So we get to liberate ourselves. It's liberatedlife.me. There's a place there for you to sign up. You can be notified immediately when the community is going live, when you can be part of that community. I'm going to make it very affordable. It's going to be an incredible place of safety, of expression, and of ultimately liberation. So go to liberatedlife.me. Make sure you join the waitlist. That program and that community and that place of power, of true empowerment, is coming for you and I and all of us in March of 2024. So from my heart to yours, thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about your own wellness, to be in sovereign seeking of your own wisdom. It's so honorable. And I respect you so much for spending time with me, for being here. It's been my intention since day one. How do I live my life well? Well, I want you to ask yourself that question in 2024. Please meditate on this, sit with this. If you're in our Breathe program at breathwork.io, do the breathwork practices. Be guided through the exact guidance that got me through some horrible, crazy times in my life. It was through that power of my breath. So go to breathwork.io. And by the way, if you're here with us on the podcast, you can use podcast 33. Podcast 33 is 33% off the program. Now look, I've given you a lot of tools. These tools cost money because they cost money for me to make. Every single time you make a financial investment in your own breathwork practice, your mental practice, your physical practice, the foods that you eat, I promise you that comes back to you. Every single time you give yourself a gift by the gift of money that you've earned, when you give that gift to someone else and you trust them and you allow that gift to come back to you, so much beauty is possible. So much wellness is possible. And the wisdom is here for all of us. So thank you for being here from my heart to yours. Until I see you in 2024 and beyond, whenever, wherever you're listening to this podcast, I'm wishing you love and wellness.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you love this video, hit subscribe. That way you'll be automatically notified when new videos come out, new episodes, and also share this video with a friend. If you loved it, they're gonna love it too. Check out some of the videos on this screen that are perfectly curated based on the video you just saw. Make sure you follow me, and I'll see you in the next video.